Hey guys, Bryan here from Liquid Concepts. So today we're going to talk a little bit about dipping helmets. And so as you can see, I do have a fire helmet here that is already prepped out and ready to go. So let's talk a little bit about what all we're going to be doing with this helmet, as well as some of the things to look out for. So with this helmet right here, let's talk a little bit about what all we're going to do. A couple of things to look at as far as you're going to dip it, and then of course how we're going to dip it itself. So a couple of things to look at is that because this is a fire helmet, it does have a lot of these ridges going around through here. Now that could possibly present a problem whenever you are dipping, because if you dip it a certain way, you might trap air either in a corner here, or even way down in this area. So those are also things to definitely look at whenever you're dipping a helmet. Now, of course, if it is a smooth helmet, you don't have to worry about those things. But because we do have a helmet with these ridges on the top of it like this, you do want to try to make sure that you keep in mind whenever you're picking your patterns, if it's going to be an easy pattern to touch up or not, because of those areas that could have blowouts or possible trapping air in those corner areas. Another thing to look out for is, as this is curved, you can clearly see that this does have a little bit of a curve right in through the back brim right here. And so it also curves up right here and curves up right here. Now this is a little bit different helmet because it is a fire helmet, so they are made like that, but sometimes you may have to adjust the angle as you're going down. So instead of maybe going down like that, you may have to tilt it one way, or even another to make sure that you get the right angle, because if not, then the air can get trapped right in these corners right here, and then you have an air pocket either right in this area, or even back down in here. So definitely keep that in mind before you go to dip it, just to make sure that you don't trap any air along any of these ridges on through the helmet itself. So with this film right here, what we're going to have is we're going to have fire going all over this helmet for the dip itself. Now, because this is a non-directional pattern, you can see that we have the fire going all different ways throughout the pattern, so it does make it really nice, so we don't have to worry about direction. So we can dip it like this, or we can dip it like this, and we're still going to get a good hit all the way around, and it's not going to be going one way or another. It's just going to be a bunch of random flames in this particular pattern. Now, the other thing that's nice about this is that we do have a lot of areas that are black or darker or lighter or things like that, which does make it a lot easier to touch up, because like I was saying before, we may have some blowouts in these areas and possibly down in here or even down in here. So having a film that is a more universal, and it also has a non-defined pattern, it's just more random everywhere, that makes it really nice. So whenever we go back in to touch up or do anything like that, this will be a lot easier to do any touch-ups on. So let's go ahead, let's get everything laid out the way that we need it. We'll cut the film and let's get started with the dipping. Now in this case right here, this is way more than what we need, but we want to try to make sure that we have plenty of room for the stretch going over. So if you'll notice, I've got a couple of inches, maybe one to 2 inches here, and then as I roll over, we'll spin this around, and you can clearly see that I've still got a couple of inches here. And then the same thing here, whenever we start from this end right here, and then we come back, I've still got plenty of room back here. I could have even shortened it more, but this will still be more than enough to dip this item right here. So let's go ahead, let's get everything ready to go for the dip on the tank. Make sure our dividers are set. Of course, if we need to add tape, we can, but in this case, this seems to be a pretty easy film to work with. So we will go ahead and use this and go ahead and get it into the water. So let's talk a little bit about how we're going to dip this. Now, of course, on this helmet in particular, this is the front and this is the back. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to take and more or less almost roll it, if you will, as we're going in. And so we're going to start at about this angle right here. Now, this is going to allow the water to come up into these little grooves in here, and then also still feed out like that. Now, because we do have a angle like this right here, we may get a little bit of a bubble or trapped air right in this area, but again, because we're using a very easy film to touch up, shouldn't be a big issue. And then we're going to roll it just a little bit as we're coming back down into the back side of it. And then once we get closer to up in this area right here, then we're going to feed it forward as we're dipping the part down in. So a whole way of doing this as we're dipping it would be something similar to starting in like this, coming in, and then finishing like that right there. Now, again, this technique is just one of many that you can use, but in this case, because we want to make sure that the front part of the helmet looks the best, we definitely want to try to make sure that we get little to no stretch up in this area. And then if there is any stretch, we try to move it towards the back end of the helmet. That way it's less noticeable. Now, again, you will notice the whole thing because you're going to see all of it, but we want to make sure that this part is the best part that is on the dip itself. So let's go ahead, let's get our film in the water, and let's get this thing dipped and show you guys how to dip this particular helmet. All right, so we'll set the film. Now this particular film, we found that it was a little bit better at about 1:30. So we went ahead, we started the timer, and then we did go ahead and put a little bit of tape just on the two sides. That does make it to where it won't roll up on itself, and it makes it a little bit easier to go down into the water with. So we'll let this expand like it's doing right here, and then come back into its normal size. And then of course, put our dividers in so that way we can contain the film as much as possible. Very nice. So of course, we've got a little bit of stretch coming down into these areas right in through here. That's understandable considering it is stretching all the way down in there, but we can easily touch that up with a little bit of candy. And also, we did a really great job in trying to minimize the dots that we've got in these little areas right here. So all in all, I would say that is a very good hit. So we can go ahead and get this rinsed, get this touched up, and this will look really good once it's all finished. So, all right, so now that we've got this all dipped, of course, now is the time to go ahead and get everything rinsed off. And as I was saying before, we can easily touch a lot of these areas up that did not stretch very well or that is lighter just by adding a little bit of candy in there, spraying in these areas like this, and even coming back in with a little bit of black, and everything will come out looking really, really good. So we're gonna go ahead, rinse this, get it all done, but hopefully this video has really helped you guys out. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, definitely leave them below. We'd always love to hear from you on anything hydrographics related, as well as if you're interested in any of the products that we've used, like this fire film or anything like that to even get started in the water transfer printing industry, definitely check out the links in the description below. They have links to the website, which is liquidconcepts.com, and it has everything that you're going to need for the hydrographics, whether it is tanks or training or film or even activator.